Tonight, we're talking about a case that has haunted people for years because on the surface, it sounds simple. A man goes on a trip. He walks away after an argument. He is seen on multiple cameras in broad daylight. And then somehow, in a small town with a timeline that should have created answers, he simply vanishes.
This is the disappearance of DaVohnte Morgan, a 28-year-old man who was last seen in Mount Shasta, California, on May 5th, 2020. He had traveled there with his girlfriend. By the next morning, after the relationship reportedly fell apart, DaVohnte was walking alone through town. Surveillance cameras picked him up multiple times. He appeared to be still moving, visible, and a part of this world. And then the footage ends, and the trail goes cold, and the questions begin. Where is DaVohnte Morgan?
What's that? What's the emergency?
No problem. All you have I'm at the corner of Pleasant Hill and John Young Freeway. 1519 East 18.
Welcome back to Crime Solvers Central. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jace.
What makes this case so gripping is that it sits in that terrible space between ordinary and alarming. People argue, couples break up, someone goes on a walk to cool off. That happens every day. But what does not happen every day is that someone disappears and never contacts the people that knew him best ever again.
And according to the people who loved him, that silence was not normal, not for the version of DaVohnte they knew. Public case write-ups say he was close with his family, the kind of person who stayed connected. So, when the calls stopped, when the days passed, and when there was no explanation, his disappearance stopped looking like somebody needing space and started looking like something far more serious.
Tonight, we're going to talk about the timeline, what has been reported, and why this case still matters. And as always, we are going to walk through the case carefully and respectfully.
We're sticking as closely as we can to publicly reported information, because at the center of this story is a real person, a real family, and a real investigation that is still unresolved.
So let's start with DaVohnte himself. Official records describe him as a black male, born March 15th, 1992. He was about 5'11", around 165 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He had distinctive tattoos, including a money bag on the top of his left hand, motivation, dedication on his left arm, Shotta on his right arm, and a lion on his chest. Authorities say when he was last seen, he was wearing a black knit turtleneck shirt, black sweatpants with a white line, and 49ers flip-flops.
Distinctive features matter here, because missing person cases are often solved not by one dramatic breakthrough, but by one memory. One person might recall a man with tattoos walking alone where he seemed out of place, and it can break the case wide open.
What also matters is where this happened. Mount Shasta draws people who want to hike the mountains and be surrounded by the environment. But beauty can also complicate a missing person case, such as terrain, distance, and the wilderness. Once someone moves outside of the visible center of town like that, the possibilities widen fast.
And in this case, the setting almost becomes part of the mystery, because if DaVohnte had never been seen at all, investigators would have had almost nothing. But that's not what happened. This case doesn't begin in darkness. It begins in daylight, on camera, in motion.
That's what makes this one so unsettling. It's not a case where someone vanished in total uncertainty from the very first second. It's a case where the world seemed to witness the start of his disappearance and still couldn't stop it.
5 years after his disappearance in the city of Mount Shasta, the mother of DaVohnte Morgan is still holding on to hope. Morgan, pictured here, disappeared from the city of Mount Shasta exactly 5 years ago today, May 5th, 2020. He was described at the time as a 28-year-old black man standing 5'11" with short black hair and brown eyes. According to Mount Shasta police, he was last seen by his then-girlfriend after an argument. His family says their faith has gotten them through each passing day since DaVohnte's disappearance.
On May 4th, 2020, DaVohnte and his girlfriend traveled to Mount Shasta and stayed at the Cold Creek Inn. Public reports say that the two argued that night and that the argument led to a breakup. Even though they had broke up, they still spent the night together at the motel.
And right away, this is one of those moments where a missing person case is muddled by ordinary human behavior. Plenty of people have emotional nights away from home and get into arguments on trips. What matters is not the argument by itself. What matters is what happened next.
According to public reporting, on the morning of May 5th, his girlfriend left early to watch the sunrise. Around 9 a.m., the two reportedly crossed paths as she returned, but they did not speak. That encounter becomes critically important because it's tied to the last stretch of time before DaVohnte disappeared.
After that, investigators were able to build part of a timeline through surveillance. One public case summary says DaVohnte was captured on multiple surveillance cameras, walking through downtown Mount Shasta before the camera trail ended sometime after 10 a.m. Public reporting also says he made a cash purchase at a convenience store that morning.
That convenience store detail always stands out. It suggests he was still functioning in a routine way. He was moving around town and interacting with a business. He was not, at least from that moment alone, already erased from the world.
Right, and it complicates simplistic narratives. If he ran off, that doesn't line up easily with the fact that there has been no confirmed bank activity or any confirmed phone activity since the disappearance. It still does not explain years of silence.
There's another detail that gets discussed a lot: his phone. Some reports say his cell phone was broken, which could explain why he was not actively calling or texting that morning. But a broken phone does not explain why there was no financial pattern or credible confirmed sightings.
And then comes the gap in reporting. Public records say he was not officially reported missing until May 7th, 2020, 2 days after he was last seen. That delay has drawn attention for years. Not because a delay automatically proves anything sinister, but when a case is measured in hours, 2 days can mean everything. It can affect search conditions, witness memory. It can even make the timeline a blur.
That's a major point. The sooner authorities know, the better chance they have to lock down video, interview witnesses while memories are still fresh, and search the right areas before time starts wiping things away.
And yet, even with that delay, the case did not disappear into nothing. Investigators conducted a grid search within about a mile radius of his last known location. There are also reports that the family later hired a private investigator. Authorities publicly described the circumstances as suspicious, stating that this is not a cold case and that it remains active.
That phrasing matters. Not a cold case. It tells you investigators do not view this as something filed away and forgotten. And that matters, not just for the family, but for anyone who might be sitting on a detail, assuming that it's too late to make a difference.
In fact, with old cases, time sometimes helps. Relationships, loyalties, and fear changes. People who once stayed silent decide they can't carry it anymore.
Another public point that has been repeated is that DaVohnte's disappearance was out of character. The people closest to him reportedly said he would not normally just vanish without contacting family. That kind of statement is not proof by itself, but it is context. It helps investigators judge whether they're looking at a voluntary absence or something more troubling.
And here, the context points toward concern. He was away from his home area, in a town he reportedly had never visited before. He was in the aftermath of a breakup and suddenly alone in an unfamiliar environment. That leaves someone vulnerable. Lots of people have terrible days, but to storm off and be gone for years with no verified trace is a leap that demands explanation.
One thing we should say carefully here. Some public coverage stated that DaVohnte's girlfriend was a person of interest, but not a suspect. This distinction matters. Person of interest is not the same as guilt. It means investigators wanted a better understanding of the circumstances. It does not make accusations fact. We can talk about the details and the concerns of the case, but we cannot substitute internet suspicion for evidence.
So when people look at this timeline, what they're really seeing is a chain of substantiated events with a brutal ending. DaVohnte checks into a motel in Mount Shasta, argues with his girlfriend, is seen the next morning, captured on surveillance walking through town, reportedly makes a cash purchase, and then vanishes. No confirmed contact, no resolution, and years later, his family still does not know why.
And that's the point where this case stops being just a timeline and becomes a question. What happened in the gap between being seen and being gone?
Now we're moving into theories, and we want to say this very clearly. These are not conclusions. These are possibilities people have discussed based on public reporting.
The first theory people often bring up is misadventure. The idea is that DaVohnte was upset, alone, unfamiliar with the area, and may have wandered into terrain or circumstances he was not prepared for. The surrounding area can turn dangerous quickly, and he may have been injured, disoriented, or hidden by geography in ways that are difficult to overcome, even with search efforts.
He was likely emotional and may have walked somewhere to cool off or be alone. And when people are distressed, they don't always make careful choices. The challenge with this theory is that while it could explain an accidental disappearance, it still leaves a lot unanswered.
The second theory that gets discussed is self-harm or suicide. Some long-form public coverage mentions struggles with depression in his background, and people point to the reported breakup and isolation as factors that could have intensified emotional distress.
And whenever a case raises that possibility, it has to be handled carefully and respectfully. Mental health history or a breakup alone does not explain a disappearance. Unless investigators publicly confirm evidence pointing that way, it should never be used as a lazy explanation to close off harder questions.
The risk with that theory is that it can become too convenient. It can make people stop asking what else might have happened. It can become a shortcut instead of an answer.
The third theory is foul play after he was last seen on camera. This is one of the most persistent ideas because the timeline creates a vulnerable window. He was alone and unfamiliar with the town. He may have been upset enough to trust the wrong person, accept a ride, walk into an isolated area, or cross paths with someone dangerous.
And what gives that theory staying power is the fact that authorities have described the case as suspicious. That does not tell us what they know behind the scenes, but it does tell us that they did not look at this as ordinary.
There's also a narrower version of the foul play theory about people already in DaVohnte's orbit that day. Because when a person disappears right after a conflict, the people closest to that moment always draw scrutiny.
What keeps pulling towards the foul play possibility is the combination of factors: the suspicious classification, the abrupt end to all activity, the lack of confirmed contact, and the absence of a clear accidental explanation. But that is still an interpretation of the available information, not proof.
The misadventure theory remains possible precisely because the environment can swallow certainty. Remote spaces, uneven terrain, bodies of water, exposure, all of those things can create outcomes that searches do not always resolve quickly. What also stands out is that this is not a case built around one massive, dramatic clue. There's no digital trail after that morning. No simple, clean endpoint. Just a narrowing line of movement until it disappears.
And maybe that's why this case keeps getting revisited, because it feels like it should be solvable. It feels like the answer is not gone, just missing, like it exists in somebody's memory, on someone's device, in a half-forgotten moment from May of 2020.
A lot of unresolved cases start to feel ancient to the public, but they don't feel ancient to the family. Do any of these theories make the most sense to you? Do you have a theory of your own? Please let us know in the comments. If you were in or around Mount Shasta on May 5th, 2020, ask yourself, did you see a man matching DaVohnte's description walking alone? Did you hear someone talk about picking someone up or seeing a person in distress that morning? Did you take photos or videos that may still exist?
And if you know something, even if it feels minor, even if you're not sure it matters, please pass it to investigators. According to the California DOJ listing, the investigating agency is the Mount Shasta Police Department. The case number is 2005M-0110. Public case listings also point people to the department at 530-926-7540.
Public reporting has also said a $25,000 reward was offered for information in the case. And Crime Solvers Central currently hosts a public case page for DaVohnte as well, which can help keep the case visible and collect discussion around updates.
So here's the biggest thing we want to leave you with. Don't assume somebody else already reported what you know. Do not assume the detail in your mind is too small or because years have passed that it no longer matters.
Cases like this are often solved when one person finally shares a memory that may be connected to the case now.
And if you want to help beyond sending tips, keep DaVohnte's name circulating responsibly. Share verified information. Focus on the facts. Focus on the person who is missing, not the noise that often grows around unresolved cases. DaVohnte Morgan disappeared in broad daylight, in a place where someone should have seen more, remembered more, or known more. Maybe somebody still does.
And until there are answers, the case remains open in the minds of the people who love him and remember him. And if this case moved you, share the episode, subscribe to Crime Solvers Central, and sign up for notifications so more people see these stories and the people behind them are not forgotten.
Thank you for watching.
Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay loud.